Welcome to the name game. Workout number 99 is going up. 4-time with an 18-minute cap, 20 bar muscle ups, 40 overhead squats at 135.95, 60 bar facing burpees, 80 wall balls, males with a 20-pound ball to a 10-foot target, and females with a 14-pound ball to a 9-foot target. And lastly, a 100-calorie row. And we're off. We're joined by Sam today, who is taking on this workout. Sam, what was your first initial pacing ideas here?
Yeah, I think the way I thought about this workout is you kind of have to dance between two traps with a long chipper, right? Like one is going out too hot and then dying 6 minutes in. And the other is over pacing it and you don't get the workout done in time, right? So you kind of have to come out with a strategy and then be kind to yourself when that strategy inevitably falls apart. Where that falls apart will probably vary by person. For me, that was somewhere in the middle of the 40 overhead squats.
Well, when you successfully PR your bar muscle up rep max, that's a pretty good starting place. Or, I mean, it's great, but it's also not great for the actual workout itself, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like when I looked at this workout, I thought, okay, you know, there's this like high tension part at the beginning with bar muscle ups and overhead squat. And then there's low tension with the burpee and wall ball. And I kind of thought, I hypothesized, you know, I need to be strategic on the bar muscle up and overhead squat, but even if I'm in pain, I can get through the other stuff. Right?
Yeah. The limiter is, completely different on the second half of the workout versus the first. Yeah. Most people, if they do have bar muscle ups, it's going to be like, you know, maybe triples or something, right? Where most people aren't going to be taking these really big sets. And even if someone does have a rep max of 25 on bar muscle ups, I probably wouldn't recommend what Sam just did.
No, it's also different for those of you that don't know. Like, Sam's also done Karen Unbroken. So, like, 80 wall balls is not as daunting for him as it would be for, like, me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and the comp we did also had a whole bunch of overhead squats at 155, so you kind of have a pretty decent idea about where you're at there. And also, like, sometimes you're just incentivized, like, in a workout like that, you're like, it starts with, like, these unfatigued bar muscle-ups, like, why not just go for it? And we actually talked about that in the last video, like, it's okay to do that sometimes and, like, you know, play with a workout and know that it's not how you'd optimally test, but it's okay because it is a training piece at the end of the day.
And I also thought, like, you can kind of rest at the top of a bar muscle up a little bit, right? So I took them. I didn't cycle them as fast as I could. I kind of took a good minute 20 or something to do them. But holding myself at the top of the straight bar dip, I think for longer than maybe I needed to, might have been a mistake because my overhead position, my triceps, my shoulders got a little bit blown up. And so I had planned to do 10s on the overhead squat, and I think I ended up doing like 8s or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously, like, the support position of a bar muscle up is very different than the rings. So, like, most people obviously aren't going to hold in like a support for rings. They're just going to break. Yep. But, you know, obviously you can lean forward a little bit and take a little bit of the pressure off your arms. But at the end of the day, like, you are still holding the lockout of that dip. So, yeah, obviously for most people recommend resting on the floor unless you're someone, like, for whatever reason, it's like dramatically easier to string reps from the top, which is some people. Chipping away at these overhead squats. I liked how you had to walk to the other side of the gym basically to
this one is, you know, it's a busy Saturday at the gym, and this requires like 5 different pieces of equipment. So you can see, like, I have my rower stood up right there.
Yeah.
Right.
A little bit different than Lumber Capital in the middle of the day when it's like just me basically in my camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much entertaining things to watch in the background here.
I know it will stay like that throughout. I would say, like, halfway through the overhead squats, I started feeling not super great. And it really, it's tough at that point, right? Because you kind of want to just get through them so that you can recover on the burpees, because everyone can just burpee slowly, right? So that's what I was thinking is like, let's push these overhead squats, just get them done and we'll recover.
Right.
But actually what ended up happening is I think that I picked up the bar a little sooner than I was ready to on the overhead squats a couple times in the last few sets. And then my first 10 or 15 or 20 burpees were really slow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the game you play with, like anytime you do a chipper like this, because if you're resting, obviously that's where you're losing like way more time versus just like moving a little bit slower. But there is a trade-off of if you go too slow, you can't make up that time in your cycle speed.
It's also the dance you play on. I like to call these reverse chippers because you start at the lowest number and then go up to the highest number. Mentally, it's like, when you start at the highest number, it's easy to be like, okay, got to pace this out.
Check that one off.
Yeah, but when you start with the lowest number, it's like, oh, Sam, he looks so tired. When you start with the lowest number, it's easy to get goaded into like, I feel great. Well, of course you feel great. Like you just started.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you can kind of get goaded into doing sets that are probably bigger than you should.
Yeah. Which is exactly what happened too. Like, again, like I don't fault Sam for PRing his bar muscle up, but that's probably the worst strategy you could have for a workout like this.
Seriously. Oh no.
That camera fell over there. But I guess the way I thought about the bar muscle up was it's not super aerobically taxing to do a big set of bar muscle ups. It's more like muscularly taxing. And so I thought, let's get the muscular part out of the way and the rest of the workout is aerobic. But that was wrong because you really need those shoulders and triceps for those wall balls.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about each of these in isolation, maybe it's not like super tricep press heavy. Like even if it was 80 wall balls, like most people can do 80 wall balls and it's like not completely destroying the shoulders if they break it up a couple times. Whereas like, got to think about it is like, okay, I did 60 basically plyo push-ups with like a burpee. I did 40, holding the bar over my heads in an overhead squat. And I also did that for like, and the lockout of the bar muscle up. So it's really easy to, kind of think about one of these as each of these being like separate movements. But anytime there's a chipper, you got to think of them as compiling all of it together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say on the 60 burpees, it's even if you move at a good clip, even if you move at 15 burpees a minute, it's still a lot of time and you have a lot of time to think, right? Yeah. And the first 20 burpees or so, I was just recovering from the fact that I went out too hot. And then the second, 20 burpees, I was kind of cruising, right? I felt good. I was in the rhythm of the workout. And then the third 20 burpees, you kind of start thinking about the wall balls, right?
You're like, my arms don't feel great. My breathing is super jacked up. And now I got to go wall ball.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was how it broke down for me.
Yeah. Do you remember what your wall ball sets were?
Yeah. So I had planned, I'll tell you my plan and then I'll tell you what I did. So my plan was, let's start with a big set and then I can usually do 20s in a workout pretty easily. And even if you blow yourself up a little too much, there's some transition time to get over to the row. If you go a little, slow at the beginning, that's okay.
Right. You can always take the first part of the row a little slower.
For sure. So that was my strategy. And that completely did not happen. I was probably 9 or 10 wall balls in at the beginning. And when your wall ball transitions from kind of a clean squat to press to you need to start jumping to get it past the line.
Yeah, because your shoulders are gone.
That happened to me around rep 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And so I dropped the ball at 10 and I said, oh boy, we have 7 sets of 10 wall balls ahead of us. Now, I wish it were that because by the end, there were some sets of 8 in there. I'll admit there were some 8s. But my strategy with that when, you really have to break something up aggressively is I like to look at the clock when I rest and just come up with a number and stick to that for my rest time. So maybe it's 5 seconds, maybe it's 7 seconds, maybe it's, 9, whatever. And that just helps me stay structured because if you go by feel, it's really easy to let time get away from you.
Yeah. Because you have to wait so long in order to feel good again. It's like you can't, like you have to, there are like some workouts where you have to kind of know that. But yeah, like for example, like I feel like E3 in this year's quarterfinals, right? Like the clean and jerk workout,
Yep.
right? Like you have to know that when you go to make the, like go to do that rep that you can make the rep
Yep.
successfully because it's
Yep.
so costly if you miss. Whereas something like wall balls, it's not like you're gonna miss, right? It's just
Yep.
that you're gonna rest a little bit longer than you should. So that's where it makes sense to be more diligent and have like a more structured way of how to think about your rest and the breaks.
And that was the difference between the overhead squats and the wall balls for me. So on the overhead squat, my strategy was if I think there's a risk of failing the overhead squat, meaning like, dropping the bar, you get a little off balance, spending too much time resting between reps, just drop it and then wait. But the wall balls, you kind of have to push. And I'll admit, they didn't feel great.
Chris, what was
Perfect.
your strategy before a workout like this?
So I would not do 20 unbroken.
What would you do?
So the depending on how I felt, I like descending sets,
Yeah,
so
I would be the same way.
I'd probably do the 20 honestly in like 3 to 4 sets.
Yep.
And then the overhead
What's approximately
squat
your rep max on bar muscle up?
right around 20.
Yeah.
And so, maybe like a 7-6-4-3 type deal. And then get right on the overhead squats. I'd try to squat snatch the first rep, and then again, descending sets. I can lock in overhead squats decently well. So maybe like a 12-10 8-6-4. And then I'd try to move pretty steady on the burpees, wall balls. Again, we're talking about looking at the workout. Sam did the workout. And so, similarly, I might say like, okay, 4 sets of 20 on the wall balls, but maybe I'm like Sam and I just crumble into a heap. Who knows? But that's probably
no offense, Sam.
Yeah, right. But that's probably what I'm looking at, 4 sets of 20 or same thing, maybe like a descending set. But those tend to work better for me, just from like a mental standpoint.
Yeah.
And then the calorie row is just, at a risk of not being politically correct, like just manning up and gritting it out,
Yeah, very true. No, honestly, my strategy would be very similar to that, where the bar muscle up breaks and overhead squat breaks would basically be identical to what you just said. I'd probably not try to do like a triple at the end. I might just try to hang on for 7 that last set of overhead squats or something. But definitely descending rep schemes, try to just manage heart rate. I would definitely squat snatch each of those reps because anytime you're breaking overhead squat sets multiple times, it's really nice to save yourself just that little bit of extra time with that bar actually in the locked out position. And in a workout like this, it's not like you're going to have a ton of fatigue at that point. So you want to manage their fatigue the best you can. So it's not like you're worried about missing the rep. Whereas like if I was worried about missing the rep, I probably would power snatch and then overhead squat to make sure it's like, or if I'm trying to hold on to like a monster set, I'll power snatch the first one to make sure it's like in the right spot in my hand. So it's like a perfect position where I can really lock in and do a ton of reps. Whereas like these are going to be more small manageable sets and trying to get the least amount of time under tension. That's where I'm going to like really rush to get those reps out of the way. Sort of like a handstand push-up where you kick up really quick, you do a rep quick and you get off the wall again as quick as you can, like minimize that time under tension. That's kind of what I would think about. And then realistically, my wall balls would be 10s.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah. I'm not great at wall balls. And also that would just kind of help me manage my heart rate a little bit and not get to the point where I'm jumping. Yeah. That just destroys my legs.
Yeah. I feel like for me on wall balls, my shoulders tend to go before my legs do. And so from a technique standpoint, this might not be the best way to do it, but I honestly rest the wall ball on my shoulder. Like I'll catch it like basically on my right shoulder and kind of do like a cross throw, like to get my left arm a little bit more involved. Yeah, basically, because it's like I want to keep moving. My shoulders hurt real bad. Holding it underneath my chin is just fatiguing them exponentially more.
Yeah.
I got no problem catching it on my shoulder, you know what I mean? And kind of riding that down. So I would probably do that immediately because I would be so tired.
Maybe I should try that a little bit.
The one thing I would throw in there on top of what you guys said is I wish I had warmed up my overhead squat and snatch more. I kind of just threw 135 on the bar, ripped a power snatch and maybe 1 or 2 overhead squats before starting the workout and said like, yep, that'll do. Right. But you want to get that position really loose. Right. And doing more practice reps or more squat snatches to warm that up, I feel like is worthwhile.
Do you remember when you finished your wall balls?
I saved the camera after I finished the wall balls. I want to say I had around 3 minutes to row. So with a little bit of transition time, right around 15, maybe before that.
Yeah. So a good chunk of people, this is going to be a completely acyclical workout, meaning that you don't even get to the rower.
Yes.
Oh, we're back. All right. Let's see him put down this rower.
So you see, I lose like 30 seconds here.
Please note this into the score, please.
Yeah. Right. No, I tried to.
Oh, look at that face. That is the face of fatigue, man.
It's tough because it actually reminded me of 23.1 or the quarterfinals GHD workout where you kind of have a lot of time to row, right? And so you want to go
more than
hard.
You want.
Yeah, you want to go hard, but you can't absolutely kick it, right? So you have to time your kick properly. And I think I went for like the all-out kick, like just everything, maybe like with 40 seconds left. But I actually think I should have kicked a little earlier. Right?
Yeah, that's actually how I felt in the workout you just described, the quarterfinals E3 or 3? Was it 3?
4. The GHD row.
4, the GHD row. Like in most workouts, like if you realize that like you're finishing on the rower or something, right? You want to maximize the energy that you can actually put into the rower, which obviously if you tail off way too early, you're going to end up like your pace bleeds way high. But if you wait too long to kick, then you're still like at that really fast pace when you finish the workout, which means that you could have put more energy into the rower and gotten that average pace down lower and obviously finished a little bit quicker. So yeah, that kind of makes sense. I mean, it's harder to do that in a training environment, especially when you're here by yourself versus like, someone screaming at you or it's like a test or something that really matters and there's a lot on the line. It's hard to go there frequently.
Yep.
Yeah. But between when it comes to a workout for me, seeing a rower or an assault bike or a burpee variation at the end of a workout is like the scariest movements to see at the end of a workout because there's no real technical or mechanical limiter when it comes to the rower when you're tired at the end of the workout, right? So if like the workout was flipped and you're just gassed and you have bar muscle ups, ring muscle ups, handstand walks, right? Much more high skill. It's like, okay, I got to come down. I got to make sure I'm doing this right. But when it comes to this, it's just pure gut check where it's just like, there's no reason to stop. Like I'm just rowing. I'm sitting down and pulling. So it's just, I have to find it within myself to keep pushing here.
Yep. 25 seconds. We're rowing at just around 1,300 cows an hour right now.
Yeah, and it felt like 2,000.
Yeah.
Where did
Especially
you
after the end of all that work.
What did you finish at, Sam?
48 cows.
Nice.
It's basically right around halfway through.
Yeah, I don't think even if I had, paced it perfectly, like I don't know if finishing it was in the cards for me, but maybe a couple more cows,
Yeah.
Sam, any last words for people as they try this one?
Have fun and take the burpees as a rest because you're going to need it.
Alrighty, folks, it's that time. Be sure to submit your scores to the leaderboard at zorfitness.com/TNG. You're more than welcome to share this and take it on with some friends, and best of luck on the workout.